Samurai Kaizen presents
Software Engineering Vocabulary. Vocabulario para Ingeniería en Software. 3. Abstracción. The process of hiding complex implementation details and showing only the essential features of an object or system. Build. The process of converting source code into executable program. Typically involves compiling the code, linking dependencies, and packaging the application into a form that can also be run, installed, or distributed. The build process might also include tasks like running tests, optimizing the code, or generating documentation. Construir, que es básicamente la traducción literal, pero que en este caso hace la referencia a convertir código fuente a un programa ejecutable. Command Line Interface, a text-based interface used to interact with software and operating systems. Concurrency, programación concurrida, the ability of a system to execute multiple tasks or processes simultaneously. Concurrency doesn't necessarily mean the tasks are running at the same time. Parallelism, it means that the program can switch between tasks efficiently. Constructor, a special method and a class that is called when an object is instantiated. Aquí un ejemplo, donde se ve un código en Python, donde el constructor es init, self, name, age, parenthesis. So in this case, when person1 is equal to person Alice 30 is executed, the constructor is called automatically. Attributes like name or age are initialized for the person1 object, as it can be seen. CRUD, create, read, update, delete. It's an acronym for this, which are the basic operations of persistent storage. Deadlock, a situation in concurrent programming where two or more processes are unable to proceed because each one is waiting for the other to release a resource. This creates a circular dependency where none of the processes can continue effectively, freezing the system. Event listener, a procedure or function in a program that waits for an event to occur, like a user clicking a button, typing, or a network request completing, and then executes a predefined action in response. A continuación, un código en JavaScript, donde el término addEventListener method es utilizado para anclar a un event listener a un botón, to a button. The listener waits for the click event. El listener aguarda por el evento click. Cuando el botón es presionado, the anonymous function inside addEventListener runs, displaying an alert. Usos comunes para event listeners. Handling user inputs, para manejar inputs como clics, typeo, escritura o scrolling. Reaccionando a eventos de red, como respuestas de APIs. Trabajando con timers, como en setTime and setTimeout en JavaScript. O escuchando a eventos en aplicaciones avanzadas. Event listeners are fundamental in creating interactive and dynamic applications. Iteration, the repetition of a process or a loop in a program. In programming, this is commonly achieved using loops like for or while, like for loop, while loop. Microservices, microservicios, a software architecture style that structures an application as a collection of loosely coupled services. Each microservice is responsible for a specific functionality and communicates with other services through well-defined APIs, typically over a network. Namespace, espacio de nombre. It's a container that holds a collection of identifiers like variable names, function names, class names, and ensures that these identifiers are unique within its scope. It prevents naming conflicts by organizing and differentiating names. Es básicamente un contenedor donde se almacena una colección de identificadores, ya sea de nombres de variables, funciones de nombres, nombres de clase, entre otros. No. A special value that represents the absence of a value or a null reference. Object. Objeto. An instance of a class in object-oriented programming that contains data and methods to manipulate that data. Overloading. A programming concept where two or more functions or methods have the same name but different parameters, as types, number, or order of arguments. The compiler or interpreter determines which version of the method or function to call based on the arguments passed during the invocation. Overloading can apply to function overloading, where there are multiple functions with the same name but different parameter list, or with operator overloading, redefining the behavior of operators like plus or times or etc. for user-defined types. Overriding. Overriding enables a subclass to alter or extend the behavior of a method inherited from its superclass, ensuring that the correct method is called based on the actual object's type at runtime. Parallelism. Parallelism. It refers to the simultaneous execution of multiple tasks or operations in order to improve the efficiency and performance of a program, particularly when working with large data sets or computationally intensive tasks. It takes advantage of multiple processors or cores to perform tasks concurrently, rather than executing them one after the other, sequentially. Polymorphism. The ability of different objects to be treated as instances of the same class through a common interface. Polymorphism can occur in two forms: compiled time polymorphism, so-called static, which is achieved through method overloading or operator overloading, and runtime polymorphism, which is dynamic, achieved through method overriding, where a subclass provides a specific implementation of a method defined in its superclass. Repository fork, which is a personal copy of a repository on a version control system, often used for experimenting with changes. Un ejemplo de estas plataformas sería GitHub. REST. Representational state transfer. It's an architectural style for designing network applications, particularly web services. It uses standard HTTP methods, and it's based on stateless communication and the use of resources, which are identified by URLs. Semaphore. It's a synchronization mechanism used to manage access to shared resources in a concurrent or multi-threaded environment. It is a variable or abstract data type that is used to control access by multiple threads to a common resource. Quick quiz. What is concurrency and what is parallelism? Look at both diagrams and tell me which is which. Pause the video if you want. Here's the correct answer. Concurrency manages multiple tasks simultaneously by interleaving their execution. Tasks progress at overlapping times, but not necessarily at the same moment. An example of this is a single-core CPU multitasking by switching between tasks, while parallelism executes multiple tasks at the exact same time on different processors or cores. An example of this is a multi-core CPU processing separate tasks simultaneously. What is overloading and what is overriding? Which differences can you tell from the following image? Take a time and deduce which is which. Overloading and overriding. Overloading allows multiple methods with the same name but different parameter list within the same class, providing flexibility to perform similar operations in various ways. It occurs at compile time and doesn't require inheritance. While overriding lets a subclass provide a specific implementation for a method defined in its superclass, ensuring the appropriate behavior for subclass objects. It occurs at runtime and it requires inheritance. The key difference is that overloading changes a method's parameters to offer multiple versions, while overriding keeps the method's signature identical to customize or extend its functionality. Look at the following code. It's from Java. If you know about it, take a look at it, analyze it, and determine which type of polymorphism is occurring in here. So, the type of polymorphism that is occurring here is interface polymorphism. Runtime. Both dog and cat implement the same interface animal. The method makeSound is invoked on animal references, my dog and my cat, but the actual implementation depends on the object type. This allows flexibility because you can use any class that implements the animal interface without changing the code. Now, here we have some definitions with their corresponding words as deadlock, iteration, namespace, microservices, and REST. Try to relate by yourself which is the right definition for each concept. Pause the video, and in a moment the answers will be revealed. Here we go. There are the right answers. This is Samurai Kaizen. Stay tuned for more Samurai Kaizen videos where you will learn more about technical English.